Hey friends, it's Miss Liz back with another installment of Kitchen Science. This time I'm going to be showing you guys how to make some butter and the science behind it. And we are going to make some pumpkin bread to go with it, because what's better in fall than some butter and some pumpkin bread? So get your lab coats on or your kitchen aprons, depending on what you like best, and let's get this experiment started. So for the first part of our experiment, we are going to make the butter and learn a little bit about the science behind it. For this part of the experiment, you're only going to need 3 items. You are going to need at least 2 cups of heavy cream. Feel free to use more if you want. The more cream you use, the more butter you'll make, but it's a good idea to start with 2 cups of it to begin with. You are going to need just a pinch of salt to stick in your cream because the butter is going to be salted. And you are going to need some kind of container to shake your butter up in. It could be a mason jar, it could be a shaker like this one, it could be a container. As long as it seals and it will stay sealed while you shake it, you're good to go. It doesn't matter what your container is. And then before we get started, because this experiment is going to take a lot of arm work, I want you guys to stretch for me. Get those arms ready for lots of shaking. And let's get rolling. To get this experiment rolling, what you're going to do is you're going to take your heavy cream and pour it right into your shaking container.
Hey friends, just a quick note. Do not fill your container all the way to the top with your heavy cream. Fill your container about halfway. This is so that you have room for the milk to grow. Do not follow my example and go all the way to the top. I will show you what happens with those results later on.
You are then going to take a sprinkle of salt, however much you want, put it on in, cap your shaker, and you are good to get going with shaking. Like I said, this is going to take at least 5 minutes, so what I like to do is I set a timer and I check in on it periodically. So if you have your heavy cream in your container and you're ready to shake, get a timer ready. Alexa, set a timer for 5 minutes. Maybe put on your favorite song and get shaken. So while we are shaking up this butter, let me tell you a little bit about the science behind why we're doing what we're doing. If you haven't noticed already, science is everywhere. And one of the best places in your home to find the science in action is in your kitchen. Cooking and baking require chemistry, and eating and digestion require biology. It's all science if you just stop and think about it. Many of the foods we eat are created by using these principles of chemistry, and butter is one of them. Butter is created from cream. Cream, if you don't know, is basically milk with a very high fat content. When cream is agitated or shaken in the jar, which is what we're doing, the fat molecules start to glob together and they separate themselves from the liquid. This glob of fat is the butter, and the liquid is called buttermilk. Bet you didn't know that that's how that was made. So we are about 4 minutes in. If you've noticed, I've changed my shaker bottle. I went to go check it to see how my butter was forming, and the container that I originally had the mixture in kind of exploded all over my kitchen counter. So I switched to a bigger bottle, and we're going to keep shaking. Like I said, 5 minutes is just the tester start number, but you may be shaking for a while. So wiggle out those arms, maybe get a family member to come and help you, make it into a game who can shake the fastest the longest. And keep on going, and I will check back in with you when it starts to look like butter. So like I mentioned earlier, butter is created when the fat and cream starts to stick together. And while you're shaking this and your arms are getting a little tired, you might be asking yourself, what keeps the fat from sticking together all the time? Shouldn't this always look like butter then? Well, small amounts of fat cells in the cream and milk are held together by a tight membrane. Under normal conditions, these membranes keep fat cells from grouping together to form large globs. But when the cream is shaken, like we're doing, keep going guys, this is your reminder to keep shaking, those fat cells bump against each other and the membranes burst. This frees the fat cells to clump together to form large globs and finally a large clump of butter. So I kept shaking it for about 2 more minutes. We are going to uncap it and we're going to see what it looks like. So by now it should start to look like whipped cream forming at the top of your either jar or shaker bottle. That's good. That means that your cream is slowly turning into butter. So you're going to keep going for a little bit longer just to make it really solid. I got a few more things of liquid at the bottom, and then you should be good to go with your butter. So give it about 2 more minutes, maybe 3 more minutes of shaking, and we'll check in. You will know you're getting close to the end when you start to hear no liquid shaking in your bottle, and that means that it's all solidified. So you give it a few more shakes, and then we are going to transfer this into a container that we want to keep our butter in. So if you take a look, you'll see it starts to look more and more like butter. So I'm going to shake this up for a few more minutes and then put it into a butter container. So shake along with me, and we are almost done with this part, I promise. I know your arms are tired, my arms are tired too, but the payout is so worth it, I promise you. Once you are done shaking your butter, we are going to take it and put it in a sealed container, or if you want to keep it in your jar that you shook it in, that's totally fine. This guy's just a little big, so I'm going to put him into something smaller. And once it's good in there, you are going to stick it in the fridge until we are ready to eat it after we do the second portion of our science experiment. For the second part of our experiment, we are going to make some pumpkin bread. So you're going to start off by getting yourself a bowl to mix all of your ingredients in. You're going to take 3 eggs and crack them into this bowl. I like to start with the eggs first because if I get any shells in the bowl, it is easier to grab them out. Earlier, we talked a little bit about the science of why we were making butter, but I'm also going to give you a little bit of science behind why we are making pumpkin bread today. If you haven't thought about it, baking is both a science and an art. In any baking recipe, doesn't matter if it's bread, cookies, cake, every ingredient has a purpose in that recipe. Once you've cracked your eggs, make sure you wash your hands to get all those yolks off of them before you go on to the next step. So I will be right back while I go do that. Once your eggs are in the bowl, you are going to take 15 ounces of pumpkin pie puree, and you're going to dump that in with the egg. Next, you are going to take a 1.5 cups of sugar. Here I'm using coconut sugar, but white sugar works just as well. But whatever kind of sugar you like, you're going to dump a 1.5 cups of there into your pumpkin mixture with your egg. You are then going to take a cup of light oil and dump it in there as well, and start mixing all of your wet ingredients with the sugar around together. And you're just going to mix these until they are all well blended together. Once all of your wet ingredients are in there, you are going to take 2 cups of flour and dump that on in. You are then going to take a teaspoon of baking soda and put that in. You are going to take 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And lastly, we are going to add some cinnamon. You are going to put 2 teaspoons of this in there as well. What is not on the ingredient list, but what I like to throw in there is a little bit of pumpkin spice. So I'm going to shake a sprinkle. You do not have to do this. I just like extra pumpkin. And if you've ever baked with me before, you know I put a sprinkle of vanilla extract in everything I do. That is because when I was little, my great grandma told me it is like sprinkling in a little bit of luck. And who doesn't want a little bit of luck in their baked goods? So you can feel free to put the vanilla extract in and pumpkin spice, or you can leave it out. That is entirely up to you. This is just how I make my pumpkin bread. Now you're going to take your spatula or spoon and you're going to stir it together until it starts to form your bread dough. Let's take a look at some of the most popular ingredients that we use in a lot of baked items. When you use baking soda and baking powder in a baked good, what its purpose is to make the goods rise. How does it do that? Well, when those ingredients are mixed into a batter, it creates carbon dioxide bubbles that help the cake to rise. As the cake bakes, the gas bubbles get trapped in the batter, which is what makes the cake light and fluffy. When you use eggs in a recipe, it helps bind all the ingredients together. When it's heated, the protein in the egg opens up and helps bind everything in that mixture into a semi-solid state. It also prevents crumbling and gives a smooth, creamy texture. And flour gives the base and structure. There are two types of proteins in flours that are called glutenin and gliadin. When water is added to the flour, those proteins come together and form a new protein called gluten. Later, inside the oven, the proteins and starches in the flour turn into a sturdy structure. Once all of your ingredients are together, you are going to grab your pan that you're going to bake them in. Now, traditionally, you would use a bread loaf pan. However, I cannot find mine tonight, so we are just going to use this guy instead. He's going to be a square, almost like a pumpkin muffin, but if you have a bread loaf, you can make your pumpkin bread. Either way, it's going to taste the same, which is going to be delicious because who doesn't love pumpkin bread? So you're going to take your pan, you're going to make sure that it's greased. I'm going to go do that, and then you're going to dump your mixture in. Once all of your pumpkin bread batter is in the pan, you're just going to take the back of whatever you mixed it with, your spatula, your spoon, and you're just going to even it out. We are going to pop this into our oven that should have been preheating at 350, and we will check back in on it in about 15 to 20 minutes. So I will see you all then. Given it some time to cool, and I have cut myself a slice. As you can see, that is a experiment gone right in my book. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out our homemade butter. As you can see, I've switched containers again because it was a little big for the one that I had before that I showed you guys with the circle top. So I put it into a bigger guy. Now what you're gonna do is take a little bit of this science experiment. You are going to smear it on this science experiment. You are going to cut yourself a little bite. And you are going to guess if your experiment went right. I don't know about you all at home, but this is an experiment that gets an A+ in my book. Thank you all so much for joining me in this month's installment of Kitchen Science. Learn to make butter and your very own pumpkin bread. I hope your test kitchens worked out just as well as mine did, and I hope you have some tasty science treats to share with your family. Check back for next month's Kitchen Science, where we will be making our own potion lava lamps in the spirit of Halloween. This program will be a grab and go kit, so be on the lookout for the registration to get yourself your own witchy test lab. If you enjoyed this experiment and want to share your creations with me, please feel free to send me an email at the email address listed below. I would love to see what your test labs look like. Take care and happy science. Bye.